You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Ha! I found my notes just in time. Hello and welcome to the Mushie Moment for today. I was going to say February, but it is March 7th, 2023. And we are live here from the Pace Radio Network. We are going out live on Pace Radio, cbgtv.com, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, and wherever else you can find us on our websites and so much more.
Foxcast locations. Like Roku and Fire Stick.
There you go. Steve got his notes out too. Yay, we got it all covered. So it is Tuesday, March 8th. My God, do you know what's happening 24 hours from 23 and a half hours from now?
You're going to be on a plane?
No, I'm going to be giving you a hug because we're both going to be in fucking Toronto, dude.
In 23 and a half hours?
In about 23 and a half hours.
I'm lucid with time, so I Wow. Oh, yeah. It's coming that fast.
It is. Oh my goodness. This time tomorrow, we're going to be smoking a joint outside the Toronto Pearson Airport waiting for Ashley to pick us up.
That's going to be pretty awesome. Now, why is it we're going to be there?
Why are we going to Ontario? That is a really, really great question. Why is it we're going to be there? We have come across a beautiful sacred frog medicine that has come up in our healing journey paths. And we're gonna take off to Ontario and partake in that. It's called Kambo.
Yes.
Yes.
And explain where it comes from.
Well, we're gonna ask our practitioner that. She's coming on for the next part. But Kambo is a frog medicine. It is it's a secretion that comes from a certain frog, and they take it out and they put it in little burns in your skin, and off you go and having a journey.
Frog. It was interesting looking it up and learning about it, and then reading the science and going through, how it works, and the fact that it's one of the most powerful detoxifiers that we really that we have. And there's a fair amount of science, but there's not a lot of deep science on it.
No, not yet.
It's pretty heavy duty.
The government has to illegalize it first and then study it. That was a dig on the government, because that's what they do with everything.
Crickets.
Right? So it does come from a tree frog, and we are off to have Kambo put into burns that will be given to us in our skin. And we will go through the throes of Kambo, and we'll have to tell you what it is like afterwards, because neither of us have yet in our journeys taken this medicine.
No, but we are going to document it so that we can show people afterwards what the journey is, because detoxifying is a massive part of healing.
It is.
So
what brought you to Kambo, Steve? Why now? Like what? I know you. Our viewers are learning you, but what got you here?
A journey that I realized I needed healing, and for a long time I was being medicated and not healing.
Being medicated with what?
Lots of pharmaceuticals. I was diagnosed with lots of letter disorders, which are behavioral patterns that were actually caused by complex PTSD. but were misdiagnosed because the crossovers of them are so vast that, and in my life, as I looked at my childhood, I hadn't understood trauma enough to realize that I was living in it. It was my normal.
Yeah.
So in my healing in 2018, I was told that's what I was dealing with. And 2019, I started on my healing path, which unfortunately in the medical system is a medicated path, and there isn't honestly a healing path. And truly, I'm hoping there's a healing path this way, which is why I'm walking it. I'm finding my healing every step I take through the natural plant medicine and the psychedelic world. The things that modify in my brain and the behaviors in my brain so that I can actually see the dysfunctional patterns I created through the PTSD gives me the ability to change them. And, I did a journey already where, I've done mushroom journeys. I've been microdosing for a few years now. I went to the jungle in Mexico and did a bunch of ayahuasca ceremonies. And, it's a slow healing path. Healing's not a destination. It's a slow healing pathway. And, we'll be walking it our lifetime because learning is healing. And in my learning and my healing, of course, I met you. You reached out at one point after seeing the documentary Psychedelic Frontier, and our pathway kind of started. It was like, hey, I'm watching you, and what are you doing? And we got, talking. You had your path come to here. You did the Iboga, and then one day I was talking to you, and you said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go do Kambo. And it's a good detoxifier. And, I've got it going on, and it's, you were just all excited. And I said, great, when are we doing it? And here we are doing it. The funny thing was, at the time, I didn't really know much about it. I knew that when I was in Mexico, some of the people that had come to do ayahuasca had done Kambo. But
so you heard about it in Mexico, and then when I said, hey, Kambo, you said, hey, I'll go, without really knowing. You just said, okay, blind faith, another healing medicine, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you said, hey, we're doing it, I went, oh, I better learn something.
I was the same thing. So I went out and bought a book. You did internet research, and I went out and bought a book. I haven't.
You got to hold that picture up because it just makes me laugh. Don't you want to tickle him?
So yeah, I mean, you were diagnosed with PTSD. You were put on a bunch of pharmaceuticals. I mean, so far you're telling my story.
I was on pharmaceuticals my whole life. I've been ADD, ADHD, borderline personality disorder, OCD,
these things that are really PTSD, and they tried to medicate you for it.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, you're telling my story at the same point in time too. The trauma itself. I was going to say the trauma doesn't matter, but it does. But it's, the trauma happened.
Patterns that come about from the trauma,
and then all this stuff happened. We were both put on crazy meds, and then we both found natural medicines. For me, I found natural medicines. 2015 was when I started. 2018 was when I was done with all of the pharmaceuticals. I got myself off all of them, and I was on 11 at the time, or really 9, because I was switching from these two to these two. So when I found cannabis, I was technically on 11, but I was already like in the process of weaning off 2. So yeah, I mean, it's, and that was hard. I did that with cannabis, and then cannabis led me to mushrooms. And mushrooms led me to watching the documentary Dosed, and then eventually the documentary Psychedelic Frontier. And these two movies brought me to Iboga, which then introduced me to 5-MeO DMT. Also introduced me to Kambo. which is how I got in there. I mean, like, yeah, the second documentary led me to my co-host over here. I reached out and I said, "Hey, you want to be friends?" And he, in a panic attack, reached back and said, "Yeah, I'll try." But then you know, because yeah, you even said that the documentary was hard for you at first, but and then we went off and we met at the Amsterdam Cafe and we smoked a couple of joints and we became fast friends, and flash forward 18 months later and you know, here we are.
We speak the same language in healing, and people speak different languages when it comes to healing, and people comprehend differently. Yeah. And when you find somebody that actually speaks a similar language to you, it's especially when you're stepping in through the psychedelic store, it's an amazing thing, because we don't have the proper words in our language to describe what goes on.
Yeah. And it was really great when I met, because I met you 3 days after my first Iboga retreat. And I sat there, and I mean, like, the only people that I was able to talk to that really got it were my practitioners. Everybody else around me didn't get it. And then we met at the Amsterdam, and I didn't even have to get a half a sentence out. And you were like, "I got goosebumps. I understand." And I'm just kind of like, yay. Somebody understands. But yeah, it led us to doing this documentary, which led to the conversation one day that I said, because I was excited when I found Ashley. I had been searching. I had started with one lady in Quebec, and she said, "Call me on this date and we'll set something up." So I called her on that date. Oh, I went on hiatus like a week ago, and I'm not sure when or if I'm coming back. And I'm like, oh. So then I knew somebody else that I had seen through social media. So I reached out to that person, and they said, "Yeah, sure. I'd love to come to Nova Scotia and do that." And I said, "Oh, great." So I kept conversating with this person, and then all of a sudden the conversation stopped. And that person put up a post saying, "I'm going on hiatus." And I'm just kind of like, and then I found a third person, which you knew of too. Somebody had sent you to her. I still haven't heard back from her. And I was then talking about all of this with Ashley one day. And she said, "Oh, well, I'm a Kambo." Oh, no. I said, "I was going for Kambo out west. I was hoping." And she's like, "Oh, I'm a Kambo practitioner." And a week later, when I still hadn't heard back from the third practitioner I tried to reach out to, I went back to Ashley and I'm like, "Yo, hey, so hi, how you doing? I remember you're a Kambo practitioner. We should chat." And then I told you about that conversation. Of course, you, I don't know if you were serious. Now that I'm talking, like you've said it a couple of, I'm not sure if you were serious about saying, "Hey, so when are we going?" But that's just the wrong thing to say to me, because if you say, "Hey, when are we going?" I'm going to make it so we can go.
And you did. And it's freaking awesome. And I am really excited about it, even with what I've learned about what, you know, may possibly happen, because, you know, you might throw up. And I'm going to make sure I'm wearing it. Depends. You know, I don't want to soil my jeans. But we don't want to scare all the people right now on what Kambo does.
No, I mean,
but when you detoxify, it gets everything out of your system. It
does. And you have to detoxify before you head in. Like when Ashley sent us instructions, we've got instructions for a 5-day dieta that we have to follow. And thankfully, thinking ahead of time, I looked at it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to wean off all this stuff slowly, because I remember
really
what it was like.
She left cinnamon buns on there.
I remember, can't have the sugar. I remember like detoxifying from pharmaceuticals or from alcohol or from cocaine. And I remember what it did to my body, and I remembered how hard it was. And knowing that sugar was an addiction, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to do this slowly. And I'm really glad I did, because it was probably one of the hardest things I've done in my life.
Well, I got to say thank you to you, because you were the one that motivated me to start early. And, you know, I've had myself up to quite a few cups of coffee during the day. And, you know, I do those cinnamon buns. I eat all this healthy stuff. But, of course, there's that one little, oh, it's a donut. Oh, it's a cinnamon bun. And And what was it, the third day in when I phoned you and you said, oh, yeah, that's you struggling with the detoxing. You're
withdrawing.
The withdrawals from the caffeine and the withdrawals from the sugar. And it was like, oh my God, yes, that's why I hadn't even thought of that end of it. But man, the withdrawals of getting that caffeine down and the sugar down, wow. Anybody that's going to do this, start the diet way ahead. Start 2 weeks ahead and work your way into it. Because honestly, I had no idea. When I was in Mexico, we had to have the dieta for the ayahuasca, but down there's just the abundance of fruit and veggies everywhere, and that's all I was doing anyway. I wasn't, doing and it's tough to find a good mocha down there, but so it was a lot less of that. But this around was like, man, it was 5 days of pulling my brain together from it.
Yeah, it's I mean, now that we're on day 3 of the dieta, the official be off everything now, and I'm not fine. Like, I mean, I had a quarter of a teaspoon of sugar to give up in a cup of tea, the milk that went in the tea, and then the little bit of the bread that I would have. So that's all I had to give up on the last day. That's it. And this has been really easy, knock on wood, so far, like the actual dieta. But that's only because I went through like 3 weeks of pure hell getting here.
Yeah,
and it was
you
hard.
Did have a couple of struggles. Yeah, I saw.
Oh, there was one day that I was calling it all off. I was going to, I'm coming for a visit, but I'm not fucking doing no frog medicine. That's where I was. I was done because I was looking at all this sugar and I was just done. And so what I did was I took some mushrooms and I took some oil and I went to bed and I was better the next day. But it was hard, and that's addiction. That's what addiction does to you. It grabs a hold of you and it says, yeah, you're not going to let me go, and I'm going to fight you tooth and nail. And I've been here and done it with nicotine and with alcohol and with pharmaceuticals and with, street drugs. So I was, when I went to bed, I went to bed with the thought, like, sugar can't win. Look at everything else I've quit. Sugar can't friggin' win. So I went to bed with that intention, with the mushrooms and the cannabis oil, and I woke up the next day much better. But yeah, man, I was this close to saying and eating that donut, so to speak. Right? Yeah, it's not hard, and that's kind of one of the things that both Steve and I decided that we were going to be loud about, is because a lot of people, like, I watch these documentaries and you watch them and you get to see what people were like before they went in. You get to see them taking some stuff. You get to see them talking about things when they come out, but nobody's telling you what they have to go through to get there. I mean, we saw a little bit in Dose with Adrienne having to wean off one thing and get on another, but we didn't get to, nobody told us what that did to her. So, like, I don't want somebody to go into this and think, okay, well, I can go do this 5-day dieta and it's just going to be, I'll just give up everything and no big deal. It's like, no, it's not a big deal. Start early. Learn. Buy yourself some spray for the bathroom because you're going to stink as you're detoxifying yourself. Be prepared for lots of gas because, oh my God, I don't think I have farted so much in my entire life, and
what you do with the bathroom one? You go to somebody else in the house and you say, I need you to go in the bathroom. I think there's burning wires. And then they'll run in there and give a big sniff. And then they'll sniff twice because they're not sure what that was. And then you just stand there with a big grin. And then they get really mad at you.
Okay, so there are some jokes that you can play with all of this as well, which is really great to know. You need to be able to do that because, but I mean, I couldn't imagine somebody going into this and being a caffeine junkie and eating a lot of steak and loving their fried foods and then saying, okay, I'm just going to give it up 5 days ahead of time. The pure hell that person would go through would be insane.
Yeah, that would be not a journey I want to be on.
No way. No.
I was grumpy enough just getting off of that caffeine. The caffeine and the sugar got me to grumpy points. It's like,
well, the sugar, crap. I mean, all I had was sugar and a few processed foods. And whew. Yeah,
I did the same. I did some microdosing at night. I like the I like the aspects. A lot of people don't think about that, but when you microdose at night, your conscious brain shuts up, and then your subconscious gets the microdosing, which is where a lot of the loops are in the subconscious. So it gets to find the pathways that cause the subconscious loops and repair them. And I know for me, it's just been massive in getting rid of my brain chatter.
Yeah. That, and it's been massive with helping me control my dissociation.
Yes.
Because I have come to realize, as we talked when we had Michelle on, I found it hard to sit down and read a book because I would read the book, but then I'd be halfway through the book and I'd realize that I actually didn't read anything because my mind was way over there doing something else. So my body read the book, but I can't remember any of it. And I microdosed one night with the intention to stop doing that, and it worked. I read Michelle's book in a day and a half.
That's awesome.
Remembered a lot when we were chatting with her. So like for me, that was huge, right? And it helped with my dissociation.
So anybody out there microdosing, think about trying them at night if you haven't been, because there's multiple regions of the brain, and the magic works on all of it.
Yeah. So for me, I was first introduced to Kambo, and that it was a medicine for the first time. 2021, it would have been July 2021, because my iboga practitioners suggested that it would be something for me to try.
That's why you were seeking, because I would go, why would anybody seek this out?
Yeah. Yes. And they suggested, because I mean, a couple of the things that I suffer from, I've got very bad allergies. And then I suffer with fibromyalgia, arthritis, and a few other physical ailments. And they were telling me that Kambo can help with some of that. And with some people, it can help in very large ways, right? Okay, you just answered that. Awesome. Thank you. So I said, well, that's really interesting. And they taught me a little bit, and they warned me about, what happens. And I said, okay, so I want to try this. And like I said, I tried 3 different practitioners to set it up, and the universe said, nope, they're the wrong people for you. So the universe took the first 2 and put them on hiatus so I wouldn't go to them. And then my emails must have gotten lost for the 3rd one, because I wasn't meant to go that way. And the universe has brought me to Ashley. And, when you stop and you look back and you take a look at the pathway, it's just like, oh, well, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
None of it and I know that you're supposed to be part of it, because none of it worked out until you said, oh, when are we going? As soon as you put yourself in there, it was just kind of like, okay, that's what I was waiting for. The universe said, let's make it work. Gave us Ashley, and off we went. And here we are. We're leaving tomorrow.
Oh, does that mean I got to pack?
Yeah, you got to go find your suitcase once we're done and packed, dude. Yeah, I know. I mean, you're causing me great panic with this. I don't even know where my suitcase is right now. Your poor co-host is over here going, oh dear God.
I have faith. It's all going to fall into place. Please.
Okay, so I don't know if everybody saw that question, and Steve did answer the question. The question came from a Facebook user that can you microdose in the morning and then again at night if you wanted to do that, and Steve did answer with yes, you can do both, and often I do. Like if I have a microdose day, I will microdose once in the morning. I will in the afternoon take another microdose. And in the evening, I will double it up before I go to bed. So I literally microdose for the whole 24 hours. And I find that it helps greatly. And that's just me, because
one of the important things is just making sure you get a break at some point between them. You don't just carry on, but utilizing them throughout the day. And one of the things I found is, the dosaging aspect. Some people will have a rough time with 1 or 2 in the day because it's just too high of a dose, in which case they've just got to get their dosage a little lower so they can do it twice in the day. But as long as you're there's lots of recommended protocols: day on, day off, 3 on, 2 off, the 5 on, 2 off type of ideas. But as long as you're taking the break to get it out of your system, so the mushroom kicks back in. With a lot of the ones with the adaptogens and tropics, they do a lot of work. Even if you carry them on, like to begin with, I was doing them 30 days in a row before I was taking any breaks. Nobody had a protocol yet.
Yeah.
So, but, and it worked for me. The biggest thing is finding how it works for you, because you've built patterns from your PTSD. I'll just go there. When you have a traumatic moment that causes PTSD, you have an immediate brain shift that from that moment on, anywhere you walk into, the first thing you're looking for is the darkness and how to keep yourself safe, which means you're not looking at 100% opportunity. You're not looking at any of the light. You're not looking at any of the light. You're stepping in and you're looking for the darkness, and what you look for, you'll find. So you find it, you go to keep yourself safe. Well, that pattern is a pattern you will use for the rest of your life until you are aware of it and cognitively change that pattern. And that pattern affects everything you do. And, the microdosing in there allows the amygdala to squish down other, like thousands of other neural pathways to open and find the damaged pathways caused by the PTSD and the trauma and the loops over and over again, because every time it loops, you're causing more damage. It's an emotional memory with no logistics that the brain can't file. The brain only files linear and logically. So if there's this much emotion and this much logistics, it's too traumatic, it just keeps looping. And when it happened, it burnt out the pathway. So it's hitting a dead pathway and looping, and that brain chatter keeps coming on. So the microdosing gives you the ability to bring all of that down. It brings the brain chatter down. It finds the damaged pathway, says, heal this. Oh, we can't heal that one? Quit using it. Send it this way. That's the neuroplasticity in the brain. And everybody has similar behavioral patterns, but they've implemented them in their life to suit their life. So you may need to dose. Like for me, I was dosing a lot during the day, and I got a lot of the brain chatter down. And then one day I had that thought, well, wait a minute, most of my stuff is subconscious, and the subconscious is working at night. So maybe I should try dosing at night. And I started, I guess about a year ago, I started on that. And it eliminated so much more of the brain chatter. Like it gives you control over your brain. And, that dosing is individual. So go slow, start small. If you start too big, you'll scare yourself. And then you go, I don't want to try that. Don't do that. Start real small, build up till you feel it. And you go, okay, am I comfortable here or not? And if you're not, take it back. Because if you felt it, it's working. Take it back. It's still working. You're just not feeling it. And let it go through. Let it do the work. Let it do the job. And find it in the points where your dysfunctional moments are. We have patterns. Wow, 3:00, this has to happen. Got to pick up the kids. Got to do that. Oh, I start to shallow breathe. I start to give myself anxiety. I make myself anxious. Well, if it happens every day at 3:00, then at 2:00, take one.
Yep. I love the advice that you're giving out, but I am going to bring it back to Kambo.
Yes.
We're gonna bring it back to Kambo after we're gonna head to break here in a moment. And after the break, and actually I've got something else to say. This is also a preview of a show to come in the future. Just be paying attention for safe space, and we'll have more of this conversation in the future. It's a really awesome conversation to have. But we are going to head to our first commercial break because we are on for 90 minutes today, folks. And when we come back, we're in.
Holy crap.
What's that?
It's already that time?
It is already that time. Oh. See, and being the guest, it's, now you're realizing what it's like, right? there's not enough time for as much as what we want to say, which is always too bad. But when we come back, we are bringing our practitioner on with us. Ashley Vibes will be here, and we will chat with her about what brought her to Kambo and becoming a practitioner. So stick around, and we will be back in just over 2.5 minutes here on Pace Radio Network, cbgtv.com, on Facebook, Twitter, oh my goodness, LinkedIn, YouTube, and of course on the Boxcast.
Roku and Fire Stick.
That's right. Thank you. We'll be back in 2.5.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Are you watching television on Roku, Fire, maybe an Apple TV or even Chromecast? If you are, then download the Boxcast app and search for CBG TV.
CBG TV broadcasting to a worldwide audience. Find us at cbgtv.com. You're watching the Cannabis Broadcasting Group here at cbgtv.com.
Did you know that the Pace Radio Network isn't just a radio network? That's right, because most, but not all of our programming is now done via video and is then podcasted at paceradio.net. So if you want to watch our programming, you'll find us on the Pace Radio Network's Facebook page, plus the show's own page, and you'll find us live on the network's YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can find it all, video and audio, at paceradio.net.
Legacy 420 have an awesome array of cannabis-infused beverages, from pop to Nature's Nectar's teas, all in amazing flavors. What a selection! We even have a delicious mango-infused juice, and let me tell you, it's delicious.
Everything is infused in-house, so we buy our syrup from, the same place where everybody else buys their syrup for their pop, and the infusion is done in the lab. It's all canned here, labeled here, produced 100% on Tyndonega.
We have 2 lines of drinks. One is called our Nature's Nectar. That was our original line that we came out with. And then we also have a line under the Red E brand. We have them in 10 milligrams, 30 milligram, and 60 milligram cans.
What a great selection for a get-together with friends or after a long day. Remember, if you want to wet your whistle with on-site lab-tested products, come see your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
I'm having a giggle at my typos because I had a typo and then I apologize for my typo, but I had a typo and the apology for the typo.
I was just laughing at that.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, I'll continue to laugh at myself in the back of my head. We're now going to bring on our guest. Hey, good time for that?
I think so.
Okay. I'd like to introduce everybody to Ashley, our Kambo practitioner that we will be spending some time with this weekend. I'm pretty excited. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I can't believe that it's going to be that soon. And, we've been planning this for quite a while. So, yeah, it's finally here.
It's finally here.
So Cindy told you we're documenting it too, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's going to be a bit of a treat too. I haven't done something like that in person either. Any ceremony that we've done or integration coaching that I've done, it's always been pretty much online, similar platform to this. So doing it in person, I think will be a really powerful thing to bring to others who are curious about this medicine.
Absolutely. I think so too. So, of course, my big question, Ashley, is, is going to be to tell us why. What got you into Kambo? What brought you to Kambo? And then, the follow-up question, of course, is what brought you to deciding you wanted to be a practitioner?
Yeah, these are great questions. And to answer it is, I had no idea about this frog, that it existed. This was definitely not part of my path. It's it is a calling, you know, all of it is. The frog does call, and it is loud. And even if you do hear them on a pond, you can tell, you know, these are loud creatures. So, you know, once you're tapped into that, it just comes. And for me, I've been working with plant medicine for a long time. I had just taken a break, though, because I found out that I was pregnant. So through my time of pregnancy and breastfeeding, I stayed away from the plant medicines, and I dove really much into the integration work, getting certified in all of these different modalities like nutrition, hormone health, other areas I was passionate about. But it always still came back to different psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. You know, I think it called me from birth. Who knows, maybe conception, but you know, it was definitely there. And I was just starting to microdose again after taking this break. There was no Planned Parenthood at that time, not Planned Parenthood, but Planned Parenthood, where they're really helping women in, you know, in a situation like me, really passionate about the medicine. It's definitely helping. But then you get into the legalities, and, you know, it's more risk when you find out that you're going to be a mom. And so I changed, I changed up my career at the time. I was doing trip sitting, and I dove into school, and I gave birth to my son naturally at home. I was writing a lot about that, different natural alternatives. I was really passionate about, you know, doing things as natural as can be in that time. And, you know, there's a lot of pushback even from holistic professionals and midwives and all of this. So I was doing my best to write it out so that I could understand it. And in that process was also sharing these things that I was passionate about. And I started working with a coach because I'm like, I need to start microdosing again. It's just time. Now my son, I'm weaning him off of breastfeeding, and I felt more confident about doing it. I felt more confident about coming out of the psychedelic closet and, you know, sharing these other areas. And my coach, who was helping me through this, he was talking about a lot of things like no FAP, psychedelics, mushrooms, all of this, like very powerful integration techniques, but also the medicines themselves. And I just found it was like a great asset working with this guy, even though he was in the UK and I was in Canada. The areas that we were passionate about was something, but I drew this druid card one day, and I was helping him with a lot of that spirituality pieces with Reiki and meditation and such. And he was helping me with this. And so I felt confident, like, I'm going to share this reading with him. You know, he's open enough. And I'm like, I really got to say, I think you're this frog card that I drew. You know, it's talking all about the medicine. It's got pictures of mushrooms on it. And I'm painting him this picture. He's like, Ashley, I'm not the frog. You need to go find the frog. Its name is Kambo. Go look it up, do your research, and find somebody. Do it now. This is a calling. And the more I looked into the research and frog totems in general, the more I realized it's actually been a long-term call even before I was pregnant. It gives me a little bit of shivers just thinking about that. But I went out to this vintage shop with a girlfriend of mine. I hadn't been out in a long time. I go through these phases of isolation or completely going off grid, and just instead of consuming, like where it is that total purge, much like Kambo too. And we'll get into that in a bit. But, you know, I would go through these phases, and it was really nice time getting out and, you know, and enjoying shopping a bit. And what I actually got for myself, which again, don't really shop for myself often, was a frog call. No word of a lie. It's like, you know, wooden Native American toy, and it calls a frog in. And I'm like, oh, wow, you know, this is crazy. So yeah, I looked everywhere when I realized, like, I really do have to do this medicine. It's been calling me for a while. I'm glad that there's a name. I'm glad I'm following this path. You know, it was scary though, but I did my best to find a practitioner, and the people that I was talking to didn't really fit the bill. Like, much like Cindy, there'd be something that would happen along the way where it just didn't work out. So I reached out to my friends at the Amazon Rainforest Conservancy. I was on the board of directors at the time. And I just asked, who knows about this medicine? What can you tell me? Do you know anybody who, is working with this medicine, or who has, just point me in the right direction? And the president herself reached out to me and said, I don't know who's doing it, but if you set up the ceremony, I'm there. She's like, it's been calling me for a long time too, and I'm so scared, and you're the best person I can think of to do it with, because she knew my background with different psychoactives, and we were already comfortable with each other. So I did everything that I could to, really make it a beautiful, sacred ceremony. When I did find the practitioner, it was a wonderful woman in the United States that worked also with herbs, with women, like womb type of healing. And she also calls herself Moon Medicine is her name. Her name's Raven Rose on Instagram, but Moon Medicines is the name of her business. And I myself, my first book I put out was all about cyclical cycles, meaning the moon cycles, the seasons, these natural cycles found in nature. And so I'm like, well, definitely it. I planned it that the three of us girls would be spending 3 nights in Denver, Colorado on a mountain with goats and chickens. It was a sacred site, all Native American, where the tree branches were still pointed down to show where all the quartz was. There's these really beautiful, cool things, and a lot of people would just walk past that and not even notice it, or they wouldn't even be hiking these days. But we found all this really cool stuff, and we knew that it was going to be a beautiful spot. And so that was it. 3 days, 3 women in the mountain, 3 ceremonies. And that's essentially the way you want to do it. Traditionally, it would be 3 ceremonies within a moon cycle. And the reason why it's this way is because the first ceremony really picks up all the stuff off the floor. The second ceremony is like sweeping and, taking the cobwebs down. And then the third one's getting on the floor with some vinegar, water, and that elbow grease to clean up the floors, the walls, the ceiling. That way you have a clean home for whatever's coming next in your life. So this is why I was listening in from the background there, but this is why Cindy is saying it's really good for allergies and such things, but it's also good for people who suffer from cancer or a lot of chronic pain, because all of these things, any kind of disease, it really stems from inflammation. This was, pretty much as simple as it can be, and no simpler when you take everything I learned in nutrition and put it into one little phrase here. It's it starts with inflammation, and oftentimes that can come from the diet, from an allergy, from overconsumption of something, maybe caffeine, maybe sugar. Where was I going with this? I guess, that was my ceremony. That was my initiation. And it was scary as hell, but I did realize in that time that, I really was in the right place at the right time with the right people. When I walked into where my practitioner was our first day off of the flight, she had pictures up of her with the same people that trained Terrence McKenna, who was a great mentor of mine. I never, met him in person or anything, but he asked that along my journey, just everything that he shares about mushrooms, about the alchemy, about the human, and even our culture. So I did realize that, and I did my best to cleanse, stick to the dieta. It was easier for me because I had already quit drinking and quit smoking cigarettes, and I had a pretty clean diet, so it wasn't so difficult to stick to it. But coffee had to go, and I also quit cannabis in that time because I knew that was one of the things that I was having a lot of in my life. Not that it's essential. Kambo does work really well with a lot of medicines like mushrooms and or not cannabis. Kambo works really well with a lot of other medicines.
So and that was going to be another question of mine later on, but now you've triggered it. When do we have to stop smoking cannabis, or when would you prefer us to stop smoking cannabis before the ceremonies, or can we smoke it right up until?
Yeah, I would just to get like the clearest messages, if you can, like, you know, if you don't want to, it's not going to be a bad thing. I'll let you guys make your own decisions on that. But I personally do, and my first practitioner recommended it as well, because you want the messages to be clear. And I'll share this with you too. Well, to answer your question, is about 24 hours. If you wanted to do the whole 5 days, great, but 24 hours is fine. Like spicy food, you know, you have the herbs the whole time, but spicy food, you kind of want to stop 24 hours before, because if you're purging, it's not going to feel so good.
Yeah.
You know, and what I remember is I had quit cannabis prior to maybe like 3 days, or it might have even been the 24 hours. I can't remember how long I went, but when I did my practice, I went and I hiked up Three Sisters Peak in Denver, Colorado, and I met some people up at the top of the mountain, and there's like this big rock, and we climbed up and we smoked a vape or something, and I felt the Kambo again, that same sensation that I felt. So you're super sensitive to it after, just from experience. And I brought that up to my practitioner at the time too, and what she had told me is to just wait a little bit longer. From personal experience though, you know, it might have been a way to stay more in communion with the frog. She wasn't a cannabis smoker, whereas I was naturally. So I did continue smoking it. I didn't completely follow the advice, but I did give breaks. And in working with it for so long, I have experienced giving it up and giving a long time before starting again as well. So I've had the spectrum. I think depending on who you are and what your relationship is with cannabis, if it's a dependence, you know, like the tobacco you guys were talking about before the show started, I realized that wasn't recorded now, but you know, you're talking about poppers and mixing tobacco and all that. You know, I think if it's a dependence, then definitely give it up. If it's, you know, that you are using this with intention, then I think you'll be okay, because that's what matters most.
Yeah. I've been curious about that one for a while. And I guess the second part of my question is, now, what led you to become a Kambo practitioner?
Well, I kept getting the call. You know, it would just, the call to work with Kambo would come maybe 6 months to a year. It sticks with you for a while, the energy, but I would physically hear it in my throat. You know how you get like a frog in your throat? You know, these old sayings? I would hear it, or my belly would gargle in a certain way, and I'd be like, oh, that's the frog. And one of the most craziest ways that I got called back was when the lockdowns first happened. I love sharing this story because I got this call, do mushrooms 10 days and you'll have your answer. So I did. Before the 10 days were up, I was on 300 acres of land on the Canadian Shield doing permaculture, and me and my son, like my son has no idea about any of that stuff that happened. So it was ideal, you know, that much time in nature, being off grid, having this experience. The crazy part was, and why I knew it was the call to Kambo, was the owner of the house, who we had this agreement with. She had published a book before, and it was all about frogs. So this woman is 80 years old. For every birthday, holiday, just visit, she's got in these frog sculptures and frog this, frog that. Everything in this girl's house was all frogs. And then part of the 300 acres right in the back was this huge, what I would consider like a lake, but they call it a pond, even though it was so big and had its own island in it. But it was all frogs. So wow. It was just a crazy thing. The mushrooms definitely led me to that place that time, but the calling was definitely to Kambo.
Wow.
That's interesting. That's funny, because in the historic world of the mushroom, for the shamanic world, that's what a lot of it was about, was taking them to get the messages of, what is going on or what's wrong with this and how do I heal it aspects. Well, that's kind of neat that you used it to get the information that way. Now, what told you to use the mushrooms to get the info?
I think I've just really built a good relationship with mushrooms over the years. I've been working with them since I was a young teen, and I've always had a lot of reverence and respect for them. Maybe, in my younger years, there was some recreational component, but I still understood the difference because I saw and could feel the difference between alcohol per se or ecstasy or whatever else. I definitely had my recreational phases in my life, but I did understand the difference. So I think just in building that relationship, the messages continued to come through. I had taken quite a long integration break before that mushroom experience. And to be honest, also, maybe this has a part in the calling and having that reverence and respect, but I never understood that there was a such thing as microdosing until my 30s. So it was always big heroic doses. There's no.
I was in my 40s when somebody handed me a microdose of mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I get that, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me just for a sec. My old dog is running in and out. I just got to close the door because it's cold here.
No worries. No worries. He's got a beautiful 17-year-old puppy. And mushrooms have saved her life.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
I need to hear more about this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't really have time to let Steve go into it here on this show, but we have time that we will be spending with you when we're in Ontario. And please do ask him about Mika. He's got all kinds of things that he can tell you about her. Bring tissue because it's heartwarming and it makes you tear up a little bit. It's really awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's making a mental note now. You're going to have to talk about Mika, Steve.
I'm like,
yeah, she's easy to talk about.
She's pretty easy to talk about. Yeah. So you've been working with, you've been a practitioner for how long now?
Maybe a year and a half that I've been working with it with other people. That call, I was doing integration work. A part of that was Reiki at the time, and I was on a practitioner's table, and I just wept. I felt that feeling, and I heard that noise in my belly that I knew was the frog call, and the emotion that came over me was so intense. I hadn't cried like that in so long, and I wasn't working with the medicine at this time. This was pure integration work, and I wept. And I cried. It might have been just, the Reiki energy moving through me. But it was deep. And once I had everything emptied, which felt very uncomfortable, but I did just feel it and free it, even though I didn't like it, I still surrendered. And I heard very clearly, it's time that you share this with other people. It's not about you. It never was. It never will be. So, I thought, when I was doing the research into who was a practitioner, the places were showing up that were in Toronto and in Saskatchewan, different places in Canada. So I didn't think that would be, just like I never knew that the frog medicine was a thing. I didn't know that me becoming a practitioner was ever going to be a thing. I feel, if anything, I still have some resistance to it, but I also do it because the feeling is so strong to just do it,
Yeah. And, like I said, with my experience, and I know that it is just, my experience with the two of you, you are meant to do this because I was meant to find you, and I was meant to find you once Steve was on board. You know what I mean? Like this, like I said, I and not saying anything against the other three practitioners that I went through, but the universe did not let it happen. It said, nope, that person's wrong. Nope, try again because that person's wrong. Nope, still not right. And then we talked, and bam, we had a date. We were making plans. I was booking a ticket. Yeah. And, it's meant to be. So I truly believe that the universe has put you where you are meant to be. And the, Kambo practitioner is one of many things that you do and do well.
I was just thinking about this yesterday, or it might have even been earlier this morning when I woke up. But this is, you guys coming to me is very similar to me and my friend going to see my first practitioner for the 3-day initiation. It's very much feels like it's come full circle, you know, taking the planes out to me. You know, that's what I did with her. You know, you guys get an Airbnb. That's what I did there. And it's 3 days and 3 people. It's a very sacred number. You guys are doing it in the spring. This is where it's a little bit different, is when I did my initiation, I booked it in right before the fall equinox and the new moon. You guys are doing it right before the spring equinox, and the new moon comes right after, or the same day or something like that. It's really close.
Wow.
Yeah. I when I stopped and realized the timing of our ceremony, I was very happy because of where it is falling in between everything.
Yeah, it's definitely a time of rebirth.
Yeah, and spring, and that's what spring is. Spring is supposed to be the rebirth, and here Steve and I get to go through a rebirth at the rebirth of the year, and it's just
the little synchronicities that are falling into place and happening.
Yeah,
and the fact that I like the fact that we're all kind of loud about it. A lot of people are quiet, but it's not time to be quiet. Healing requires loud, and a lot of people require healing.
Yeah, and that's how people are going to learn about it, is by folks like us being louder. And I was saying earlier, like, I mean, I like to be loud about my story, because if somebody can say, "Oh, that's what you were like in the past, and that's what you dealt with, and now look at you," and if they can see similarities, I mean, maybe they'll see a path that they can walk and help themselves. Because really, that's what it comes down to. As much as you know, any of these medicines are put in front of anybody, as much as any of these journeys are put in front of anybody, people have to step up and say, "Okay, I'm ready to go do that now." And then they have to make the phone call. And even though you're the facilitator and this is the medicine, Steve and I are the ones that are going to be doing the work this weekend. It's and it is that. I mean, we have to make the decision to do it. We had to make the commitment to the dieta. We had to make the commitment to the medicine via the dieta to do it. And it all kind of comes together. And the fact that we are going to be 3 in you know, doing this with you and the 2 of us. And I mean, it's just, it's all coming together as it was meant to be.
Yeah.
And we get to document it so other people can see how easy it is to walk that pathway without fear.
Yeah. Okay, except for that one day that I had fear. There was one day that was really bad, but I got past
to be
it.
Expected, and we get to show that. We get to discuss it. People get to realize there is fear.
Yeah. And they get to learn some tools that like I said, I took a dose of cannabis oil, and I took a dose of I took a couple of microdoses, and I went to bed with the intention to wake up more at ease. And I did. I woke up more at ease, and my diet is still boring, but it is all vegan now. And it may be the same thing, you know, basically every day, but I'm doing it. And I've learned how to make vegetable soup. I made a really amazing vegetable soup. Actually, it took me 3 tries, but oh my God, my vegetable soup is good.
Great.
Oh, that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, and that's, yeah, and I think that's why I'm loud, is because I want people to know that it's not hard, but it is doable. And oh my goodness, if Cindy, the queen of loving sugar and fried foods, can do it, then you know, anybody can step up and walk this path. But it has to be a path that you decide that you want to walk, and that you want to take, and nobody can decide that for you.
You got to use the tools that are there. If you're going to walk the path, pick up the tools and use them. Yeah. Because picking them up, looking at them, put them down, that don't build the house. You got to swing the hammer and hit the nail, or it just doesn't happen. Yep, for sure.
For sure. Thank you, Cindy, for teaching me about microdosing with mushrooms. Oh, this is Carolyn. You're welcome, Carolyn. Yeah.
I love when you get things like that, or when people, you must get tons of it, Ashley. People that just call you and say, "Oh, thank you. My life has changed. You've made my life so much better." You know,
we got them all over our website, actually.
Yeah. When I was looking for a little bio on you and to grab a picture, I mean, like, this is what people are saying section is very long, and yeah, you're helping a lot
There's
of
always
folks.
more coming.
Oh, I hope you got about 8 pages. I don't know whether you noticed, but I babble lots. So
I'm looking forward to it.
And with that, we are at the time for the second commercial, ladies and gentlemen. Steve is looking at the time going, oh my gosh, already? So we will be back in just under 1 second short of 3 minutes for a little bit more chatting with Ashley. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network. By patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
And welcome back to the Mushie Moment. We are live here at Pace Radio Network, cbgtv.com, on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can also find us on the Boxcast app on the Roku and Fire Stick TVs. I think I got all of them this time. I'm so impressed. Today we are talking, with ourselves and with Ashley, and we are talking Kambo. Because Steve and I are about to go see Ashley and take some Kambo.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. One of the things, I mean, we are planning on documenting it all so we can share what happens. Neither of us have done this before, being Steve and I. Ashley has, of course. But one of the things that Ashley got us to do before coming is she sent us out this 19-page thing that, please read this and then fill out this thing for me so I have an idea, about you. But this 19-page thing, and part of this 19 pages that she sent us is, this is my first ceremony. I threw up a lot, then they shoved a bunch of water down my throat, and then I threw up a lot, and then they shoved a bunch of water down my throat. And this went on for 3 or 4 or 5 times. And so that's about as much as I really know about the ceremony, is that I'm going to purge a whole lot. And Ashley's going to shove more water down my throat. Once I think it's over, she's going to say, I don't think so, girlfriend, and give me some more water so I can do it all over again. Is that about right?
Well, maybe. I want to paint a better picture here. Okay. Oh my God, why would you guys even want to do it at that point?
Because it only lasts.
Hang on, let me get my Depends a little
and then you feel so much better afterwards. Yeah, I gotta go buy some when we're done this. So
yeah, okay. So yeah, there is this purge, and there doesn't always have to be. We'll get into that after I explain how it's traditionally done and why. But essentially, back in the day, our ancestors and even still tribes today, they'd use this as a warrior medicine for hunters, essentially to be able to see through the camouflage into like slight changes, to be able to hunt in the dark if they needed to still feed their families. But the most important part of this is that unlike the other psychedelics where we're tapping into like the collective conscious or going into different dimensions, with Kambo, you're very much going into the animal spirit. You're tapping into what it is that they see. So what hunters would do is meditate after taking Kambo to find out where these animals were going to go to eat. And then once they had that vision, maybe they're working with it 3 days in a row, or maybe they're working with it for a month at a time. But they would eventually see this vision of where it is that the animals are. And then they would be able, or like maybe by the time they get there, it's right at the exact time as the animals are there, and they already know how to capture it, how they're going to feed their family. And shamans would get these messages because they were seeing what the other animals see. So once the other animals were able to see, or the ones that they were hunting, once they were able to see that vision, they knew, okay, I remember, or they'd wait for it to be in alignment with close to where they are for what they were able to do at that time. I think one of the reasons why so many women are called to it is because it's also very good for that ancestral work. And we're kind of the warriors of that dark night of the soul, tapping into that like Hecate, goddess energy, to be able to move through, have these keys to get in and out of hell, to guide other people in and out of it. And I think this is one of the new age blessings that's coming from it, and one of the reasons why it's needed today. But traditionally, this was a hunting medicine. And not only that, also it was considered the vaccine of the forest. One of the translations is vaccine. And one of the reasons why this is so good is these peptides. And it is actually scientifically proven. There is a lot of science out there. It's been
I posted a bunch of it up already.
Yeah, it's nothing new, but they do definitely oppress it. And it is kind of a scary ordeal medicine as well. So I understand that part, but I don't think we actually have to be scared of it, because how many people, even listening to this show, have known that they're going to get a hangover, might drink themselves to the point of puking and still do it. Or eat like so much disgusting food that they got the runs, like hello Taco Bell. I've done that before. It's like lower quality than dog food, and it doesn't feel so good coming out, but it is that mouth pleasure going in. And so we do these things knowing that there's a consequence, but we do them for a reason. The difference with Kambo is that you're getting these potent peptides inside of you to help beat pain, beat out cancer, beat out so many different things, and strengthen your immune system. The fact that allergies don't really affect you anymore. You're detoxing like through sweat and stuff like that. It doesn't have the same body odor anymore. So there's a lot more benefits to this than, let's say, like Taco Bell or a night at the bar.
Yeah.
When you go through the science, what is it? It works on hypertension, cardiovascular disease, cancers. Just the three. I searched the studies on each of the three peptides as well, and you got to keep going deeper and deeper, because you're right. It isn't just there. You got to keep looking and go deeper. But when you go through and what they do, how they inhibit growth of bacteria. Interfere with bacterial DNA replication to stop the bacteria from growing within you. I was just blown away because they have the science on it and what's going on and what it does. And literally as a detoxifier, I couldn't find anything that says it's stronger than this.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the book that Cindy keeps sharing, Sapo for My Soul, that's written by Peter Gorman, who is actually the main character bringing a Kambo to the West. He started out by bringing it to a museum he was working for because he was studying indigenous tribes, but he was also kind of a freelancer. So there was a lot of threats that came to him. Like his work was pretty dangerous in a sense, because there was a lot of other people down there that had known about this medicine already, but had to keep it under wraps or weren't able to get credit for it because they worked for somebody else and aren't allowed or weren't allowed to work with the medicine. So they had to keep what they did wrong under wraps. And, it oppressed everybody from this knowledge for a very long time. But that's only part of it. There's a reason why they weren't allowed doing the medicine. Right? There'd be people who knew what the power was behind these things. So it goes much further back, but him bringing it to the West was really brave. And in that book, he explains in a very beautiful way to also still conserve some of those old traditions and the frogs themselves in these native areas, as well as a lot of really amazing stories. So definitely check that out. But eventually, what he was bringing to the museum ended up being studied in science. And this is when all of this research, I think there's 36 peptides now that you can find information on. It's a huge amount. These are, very...
And that's actually a new area that they're really pushing in the science. They did that with cancer. They went through the blue scorpion, pulled out some peptides, went, oh, these attack the cancer. And it seems to be a real area of research right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's research that's been being done for a long time, but much like psychedelics, it gets put on the shelf and you sometimes have to really prove through private funding first before being able to go for government funding or anything. And even then, sometimes it doesn't make it through, but they do whatever they can to make it a long, drawn out process. And other people investing into the systems out of their own pockets for a long time.
And then it just ends up being people like you and I that just go, hey, it doesn't matter. We just need to know the science works. We see that it works, and we'll introduce what we can here to help people out.
Yeah, and sharing direct experience is so powerful too. This is one of the things I learned by getting certificates and so many different things is that it doesn't matter. What matters is you and your own direct experience. That's the only thing that matters. Having any certificate, whether it's
that makes other people feel better when they're talking to you.
Because you resonate. And not only that, if you're sharing education, sure, but even if you're sharing a direct experience, that builds the know, like, and trust. And that's how you can actually make a difference, how they're actually going to remember and start doing that work for themselves.
Absolutely. 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 So if I were a new client and I called you up and I said, hi, Ashley, I am interested in coming to take Kambo.
No, let me take this one. Okay. Because I am. Okay. And this is my first time talking to Ashley.
Okay.
And I have that great big huge thing. And I got a little overwhelmed going through it. Right. So this is actually our first time talking.
Let's get to the point where you get the great big huge thing. You've just called her and said, hi, I want to take Kambo. She hasn't even sent that to you yet.
Okay. So I call and I say, I'm interested in doing Kambo. What is your response?
Yeah, so the first thing you want to do is go to my website, elementalgrowth.org, and you can book in a clarity call. It's like a 10-15 minute call. There's no charge for it. It doesn't matter what you want to do or what you think you're going to do. We'll go through the spectrum and figure out what you actually need and create a roadmap to get you there. And then I send the email if Kambo is the right thing for you or you're in that space right now. I send you this package that's information. It's not always essential, and I don't always send it out. I just thought it would be relevant for you guys. And sometimes there have been other people that are just really interested in what I've gathered so far, where I send it out as well. But it's not always essential. What is, though, is that one piece, that one sheet of that has the dieta and the preparation and what to expect on it. That's the main one I send out. It's just one page. There is a link in the PDF for a questionnaire, or you can go through my scheduling link and get that questionnaire too. But again, it's very private. I don't send this stuff out to everybody. It's, go through the steps.
Yeah, it's a questionnaire to help you do your job better.
Yes, the more I know, especially when it can be really hard on people. How big of a mess would it be if if you go into like a hoarder's house? There was a show back in the day that was called Clean Sweep, and because I had been diagnosed with OCD, I just loved this show, because one of my things was I had to control my environment by having everything in a certain place. And so this show I just loved, because they would go into these horrible hoarder homes and they'd lay everything out on the front yard, and they had to sell trash, or it would go to a garage, sell trash, or they had their want to keep pile, but they could only keep a portion of that. They would do prizes they'd have to win a challenge in order to keep the stuff that they actually wanted to keep as well. But it was a great mindset thing. And this is very much what happens with Kambo, right? Is that, first you're getting everything out of the house. And that, sometimes might bring down the structure. Depending if there's a lot of mold there or other things. And I'm just using this as a metaphor.
Understandable.
If you're on a lot of pharmaceuticals or getting off crazy medications or a crazy lifestyle with food and other drugs, then we really want to be due diligent.
So Steve, as the new client, has now received this email that has the one page and this questionnaire.
Yes.
And now he's got questions about the questions.
Yes. So we would do an actual coaching call to create our ceremony, much like you and I did, Cindy. A lot of it was through text, but still any questions, I'm here, whether it's through text or on this preparation call. And then we actually have the ceremony, and then there's an integration one as well after. But I'm here for you, Steve, right now to answer whatever questions you've got from this.
Well, when we it says describe your trauma, go through your traumas.
Yeah.
But when you have a lifetime of stuff, I don't know. There's the traumas that the little boy cataloged as traumas way back in the day, that when I look back now, I can see they were traumas, but I can refile them. But then there's the traumas that I haven't refiled yet. And there's there's ongoing stuff as well. I get lost in what I should actually be documenting, what you're looking for there, because there's a lifetime of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could relate to that. I know I personally can too. Sometimes if you're, these things from childhood really do ripple out into our everyday lives until we get to the root of it. And I have some techniques that I like to use. It's called psychosomatic work. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do that work. And so that's something we might do in coaching sessions prior to ceremony. So, I've got a client right now that is really interested in ceremony, and we're just starting to plan that out now. But we've been working with each other about a year in coaching previously, doing this psychosomatic work, doing other things. You don't necessarily have to do all of this before Kambo, but it's good to be doing it if you're working with any psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. With Kambo, again, it's very much a body medicine, but because she has anxiety, you don't want to go into this full of these anxieties around it. So working with each other, building that know, like, and trust over this year is how she's going to be better prepared for this, not to mention all the other benefits that she's reaping in her life through the coaching support and microdosing.
Okay, now with what you need, like what you need for us putting traumas or whatever, is it more just the fact you need to know there's some there that you'll have to be
that you
dealing with?
recognize
So
it.
if a person just put like 3 or 4 of them down, that's good to, 3 or 4 of the biggies, and you're good.
Yeah, what I'm really looking for is to know that you're acknowledging that there's trauma. Because
so if he were to write down, there's a lot, it's a lifetime, can't list it all, he's acknowledging it.
Yes.
Is that the kind of thing that would
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's all it is simple. If you want to do them bullet points, but there's all kinds of trauma, as you know. So I'm just looking to know that you acknowledge that it's there. And if you know that yours kind of stems from childhood, if that's the first thing you can remember, then that's really important. But if somebody had a really good childhood and their first trauma was war, then that's what I want to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah.
For both of us, I think it's been like literally a lifetime PTSD starting when we were children. So, CPTSD starting when we were children. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So now that you've, he's now, are there any other questions about the questionnaire before I decide to ask another question?
No, that one, it's pretty standard. It was, I found it fairly a standard thing. There was a thing on, like operations or whatever like that. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's pretty standard as well. What would you say are the 3 key things that you need to go forward with somebody?
The 3 things, I need to know that there's some self-awareness there. I like working with people who have already been familiar with different psychoactives, even though Kambo is not considered a psychedelic. I think it really calls to people who are. And I like to know that, the person has an intention behind it. It's not just, oh, I want to, try it because everybody's doing it. That's, there has to be a purpose of some sort. Maybe it's physical healing, or it could be emotional, like as an emotional purge. Again, I just like to know in general, like the more that we talk with each other, the more we get to know each other. But in the forum itself, it can be pretty general, because when we are talking, that's when we'll dig in deeper. That gives me bullet points to make sure, okay, we touch on this in a talk, we touch on this in a talk, and we get into these talks beforehand.
That's understandable. So thankfully, and thank you ahead of time. You're picking us up from the airport, so we will be able to have one of those chats then.
Yes, absolutely.
That works out perfectly.
Yeah, and we've got a day before your first ceremony too, so anything that you guys need, you can always get in touch with me as well. And I do keep myself available by text and all of that too. With calls, you guys are welcome to call me. Just if I don't pick up right away, I'll call you back as soon as I can.
Yeah. No, you're busy on a phone call or with your son, right?
Yeah.
Obviously. Yeah, so
I have a question.
I was just about to say, do you have any other questions, Steve?
I do. What would be, like if a person has had a couple of heart attacks and a stroke, odds of being able to do this medicine?
It depends on how dependent they are on their medications. We'd have to really dig into that. How long ago it was that they had that issue? What are the medications that they're on? How dependent are they? How's their lifestyle since those heart issues or brain issues? Brain is another one. If people have had, issues like that. I definitely would be digging more into that on a call. I need to know definitely the medications, how long it's been, and what their lifestyle is like now. And then I would judge it essentially like on a spectrum of how risky this would be. And then I wouldn't say, no, we're never going to do this. I would build out a roadmap for how to get to that point of doing it.
Right.
And if they don't feel like putting in that work, then they can go find somebody else, or they can say goodbye to that idea.
Right. Okay. So what about somebody who's, a recovered addict who's come to you and wants to detox using Kambo? What are the parameters?
How long have they been through their detox, and I would be cool with it. I think when it comes to addiction, this can be really powerful right off the bat. Same with people with pain. However, again, they have to be through that detox period off of the medications.
Yeah,
And
so you'd want them sober for
30 days.
60, 30 days?
Yeah, 30
off
days
everything.
longer.
And
Yeah.
that would include like Suboxone or any of the, okay.
Yeah, and those ones especially, even if they are like on low doses, the 30 days would be ideal. With mushrooms, it's okay. You can intertwine them.
So if somebody who was like in, on one of these, medications that they put people on could get off of it, say using mushrooms and be on mushrooms for 30 days, you could then help them detox at that point.
Absolutely. Yes.
What about cannabis oil?
Exactly what I would do. Pardon?
What about
cannabis oil? Is this the same? It's the same as us smoking it, like
the aspect. So if somebody detoxed off the cannabis using the cannabis oil, it's all good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
It just because I'm a recovered addict, that that's always a question that I have, right?
Yeah.
Where this is supposed to be a detoxing medicine, and it's not an expensive detoxing medicine in the realm of psychedelics or natural medicines, right? It's it's very accessible. It's legal.
At all. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's boosting or immune boosting properties for its ability to fight cancer and all of these crazy things. It is definitely in the affordable range. And
I believe that we probably just touched on a whole new subject that we could open up and have a very large conversation about. And I am looking at the time going, golly gosh, I can't let that happen.
Flying by.
Yeah, it's I have been on. By the way, Ashley has a podcast on Pace Radio as well. I have been a guest on there. Speaking of my iboga, ceremonies, and we had a wonderful chat. But the time just seems to go when you get into intriguing conversations and learning new things. I would hope that Ashley, maybe sometime after we go through ceremonies with you and whatnot, that maybe you'll come back on and talk about the whole integration process with us as Steve and I are going through it. Quite like we're doing like this with Kambo. It's been absolutely amazing to have you on.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Yeah. And I'm definitely down for that. I think that would be a great way to do it. And then anybody else who's working with this medicine along the way can see that process too. My dog is calling me. That was perfect timing. Did you hear?
I heard that. As you can see, Steve has put up on the banner on the bottom Ashley's website. So you can go there and you can learn about Ashley. You can find her both on Facebook and Instagram now, correct?
Yes. Yeah, I just got Facebook. Oh my God. It's been like 4 years and I'm like, do I do it? But yeah, last week was really crazy. I saw a lot of people from my past, friends and family from back home. I'm like, I think I'm just going to try it. And now I've kept it. I've linked up my business. So I'll be around there. Yeah, if anybody wants to chat. And same with Instagram. That's kind of where we hang out also.
Wonderful. And you can also find her at the website and link up with her there and request your conversation with her. That's how I booked her for a conversation too. So thank you so much for coming on. And we will, Steve and I will see all you guys next week as completely new people. Thank you so much for joining us here at Pace Radio Network, cbgtv.com, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. No, we're not on Instagram yet. Scratch that one. LinkedIn, YouTube. We are also on the Boxcast app through Roku and on the Fire Stick. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been quite a trip, quite a conversation. I can't wait for this weekend. I really, really can't. I am so excited to go through this medicine, and I'm pretty sure my co-host is as well.
Oh, this is going to be awesome. Healing is always awesome. Healing rocks.
Yeah. So we will see
all packed up.
Yay. We will see everybody on the other side of our 3-ceremony journey.
Thanks everybody for watching the show and supporting us. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
Ciao for now. Bye.
Bye, guys.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? People advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.